What happens when a father is arrested outside his daughter's school for carrying her science project? A judge mocks him in court, unaware of who his father is. What happened next left the entire room in stunned silence. Let me tell you how a man can go from carrying a cardboard Saturn to getting humiliated in front of his child, all before breakfast. It was one of those crisp spring mornings in Georgia, sun shining, birds doing their job, and me, Mark Henderson, walking hand in hand with my little girl, Amara. She's 6, smart as a whip, and last night she stayed up past bedtime just to finish gluing Jupiter's stripes. We were on our way to her elementary school, carrying this big old science project, solar system on a hanger, orbiting planets and all. And you could see in her eyes that it wasn't just cardboard and paint, it was pride. We were 10 steps from the gate. I bent down to fix one of her sneakers. The laces never hold. And then I heard tires screech like someone just saw a ghost. I looked up, and sure enough, it was a patrol car pulling up so fast you'd think we were robbing the place. 2 officers, one young and twitchy, the other old with a buzz cut like he just walked out of a Clint Eastwood movie. Hopped out like they were expecting trouble. The older one pointed at me like I was a stray dog digging through trash. "You! Step away from the child." "Excuse me?" I straightened up, still holding my daughter's hand. "Sir, this is my daughter. We're heading into school. This here's her science project." He cut me off like I wasn't even speaking English. "Got ID?" Now let's pause right here. Because in any other neighborhood, a father holding his child's hand and carrying a model of Saturn would be treated like a Norman Rockwell painting. But here I was, a 41-year-old working man, wearing clean boots, still in my utility vest with my company logo, being told to identify myself like I just climbed out of somebody's window. And Amara? She started clutching my hand like she could feel something wrong. She looked up at me, her tiny brows furrowed, and whispered, "Daddy, did we do something bad?" I looked the officer straight in the eye, handed over my ID, and kept my voice even. "We're just trying to get to class on time." They didn't care. 2 minutes later, I was in cuffs, right there on the sidewalk, in front of my baby girl. And the worst part? They dropped that solar system. Planets broke off like they'd been hit by a meteor. Saturn cracked in half. They shoved me into the back seat like I was trash day come early. And as we pulled off, I saw Amara just standing there, holding a broken Jupiter in one hand and wiping tears with the other. No teacher came. No neighbor stepped in. Just silence. Back at the station, they barely let me talk. Said I was acting suspicious. Near a school, with a box in my hand. You'd think I was carrying plutonium, not papier-mâché planets. They didn't call my wife. Didn't let me explain. Just threw me into a holding room that smelled like bleach and lost hope. Then came the cherry on top. They said, "You've got a hearing. Magistrate Horn's available." Judge Horn. Oh, I'd heard of him. Folks said he was the kind of man who aged into arrogance like a wine gone sour. You could feel it when he walked into the room. All gavel and no grace. He looked at me for 3 seconds. Didn't glance at my file. Didn't ask about the kid. Didn't care. Suspicious activity near a public school. You expect me to believe you were just playing daddy? And then he laughed. He laughed, like my situation was some punchline in his courtroom routine. "What was it this time? Baking soda volcano." I wanted to speak. I tried to speak. But every time I opened my mouth, he cut me down with that smirk. That smug, drawl-soaked voice, like he thought I couldn't string a sentence together. By the end of it, I wasn't angry. I wasn't afraid. I was humiliated. They gave me a citation, $500, said I could contest it if I felt like wasting time. Then they opened the door and said, "Don't hang around schools if you're not picking up trash." And as I stepped back into daylight, heart burning and jaw tight, the only thing I could think was, is this what it takes to get arrested now? Being a black dad with glue on your hands? What happened next changed everything. You're not ready for how deep this rabbit hole goes. Stick around. It's about to get real. You ever walk into a place and know, deep down in your bones, that the people in it already made up their minds about you? That was the courthouse. Fluorescent lights buzzing, plastic chairs that could break a hip, the smell of cold coffee and old carpet. And me, I was brought in like a man who did something, not like a father who got dragged off a sidewalk for holding his daughter's hand. They didn't give me a lawyer, no Miranda rights, no nothing. Just a printout of the citation and a hallway that led to courtroom B. When I stepped in, it felt like time forgot the room. Judge Horn was already up there, polishing his glasses like he was doing brain surgery. Real proud of that seat, like he'd earned it pulling miracles instead of pushing paper. He barely looked up. Mark Henderson, suspicious conduct near minors. Let's make this quick. Make this quick? I wanted to ask him, you want to make quick what exactly? The truth? The shame? My daughter's tears? But I knew the rules. Speak too soft. They call you weak. Speak too loud. They call you dangerous. So I took a breath, straightened my shoulders, and opened my mouth to explain. Didn't even get to, Your Honor. Sir, he interrupted, I don't need a speech. I've seen this story before. Seen this story before. As if I was a rerun. As if I was a rerun with a bad ending. I tried again, this time slower, clearer. Sir, I was walking my daughter into school. That box? It was her science I said I've heard it, he snapped. Don't insult the court. And then he smiled. That slow, patronizing grin that says, this is my sandbox and you don't even belong on the playground. He turned to the bailiff and said loud enough for the back row to hear, I've got plumbers who dress better in court. Laughter, I heard it. Some clerk in the back snorted. Even the young officer who cuffed me outside was hiding a smirk. And in that moment, standing there in my dusty work boots and faded utility jacket, I wasn't just a black man in court. I was a punchline. To them, I wasn't someone's father, husband, neighbor. I was just another case, another box to check, another day in the system, another lesson in humility for the wrong man. Then something happened I didn't expect. The courtroom door creaked open, and in rushed someone unexpected. It was Mrs. Farrell, my daughter's second-grade teacher. She was out of breath, still wearing her Readers or Leaders lanyard, and holding a crumpled solar system model in her arms like it was evidence in a federal case. She raised her voice. Judge Horn! This man did nothing wrong. I asked him to bring this to school. I assigned it. This is Amara's project. He was helping his daughter, not bothering anyone. Now you'd think, finally some truth in the room. But Judge Horn, he banged that gavel so fast you'd think it owed him money. Ma'am, you're not part of this hearing. Please remove yourself before I hold you in contempt. Contempt? Let me get this straight. A teacher stands up for a parent and she's the problem? That's when it hit me. This wasn't about laws. This wasn't about justice. This was about control. The kind of control that tells people like me, you better not walk too proud or someone will knock you down. I looked around. Court reporter didn't even raise her head. Bailiff yawned. They didn't see a father. They saw a disruption. They handed me the fine like it was a trophy. $500. If you want to contest it, go ahead. Good luck with that. And with that, they sent me back into the hallway. Back to square one. Back to the feeling that being right doesn't always mean you'll be treated fair. I sat on a bench, palms sweating, back tight. My head was spinning with questions that had no answers. What if Amara thinks I really did something wrong? What if this sticks to my name? What if they come for me again? But just as I buried my face in my hands, I felt a buzz in my pocket. My phone lit up with a notification. Someone had filmed the whole arrest. It was already online, already climbing. And the caption? Black father arrested for dropping off daughter's science project. In that moment, I didn't know if I should cry or laugh. All I knew was, this ain't over. This is the turning point. Everything you've been waiting for? It's coming up. Stick around. The judge is about to meet a truth he can't ignore. By the time I got home that night, Amara was asleep on the couch, clutching the broken ring of Saturn like it was her teddy bear. My wife had tried to explain it all to her, but you can't unsee a daddy getting dragged off the sidewalk like he doesn't matter. I stood in that doorway, jacket still on, heart heavy. I wanted to fix it. I wanted to make her laugh again. But all I could do was kneel down, kiss her forehead and whisper, "Daddy's gonna make this right. I promise." Now let me be clear. I wasn't about to roll over and let the world tell my baby girl her father was a criminal for caring. Because if there's one thing my own father taught me, it's this. When they try to bury you, stand taller. So the next morning, while the video of my arrest was making its rounds online, I made a call. Not to a lawyer, not to the school. I called him. Now let me explain something real quick about Colonel George L. Henderson. My father, retired, decorated, unbothered. The kind of man who walks into a room and shifts the air. Taught constitutional law after 2 tours. Helped draft community justice reforms. He doesn't talk loud, he just speaks truth so hard it echoes. And let me tell you, he was not pleased. That afternoon he showed up outside the courthouse, wearing his navy blue suit with his medals pinned across his chest like punctuation marks. He carried a leather folder and walked like he was still reporting to a command post. I walked beside him in silence. My palms were sweaty. He looked calm, but his eyes, fire. He was going to war, and he had receipts. Inside, the courtroom buzzed. People were there this time. Parents, teachers, journalists, a few local leaders, even a couple of veterans in uniform. That video had legs, and Judge Horn, he walked in with the same tired smirk like it was just another day in his kingdom, until my father stood, without being asked. "Your Honor, I'm Colonel George Henderson. You may remember me from the State Legal Oversight Committee." The judge froze. His eyes flicked from the medals to the name. "Henderson." "Yes," my father said. "Mark is my son." Dead silence. You could hear a pen drop, and then that pen question its existence. My father walked straight to the bench, calm, collected. He opened his folder like he was flipping the final page of a history book. Inside footage, legal codes, proof of misconduct, examples of bias, sworn testimony from witnesses, a full breakdown of every procedural error made during my arrest and court appearance. "Judge Horn," my father said, "you violated my son's rights. And in doing so, you violated your oath. Today, you answer for that." The judge turned pale. His lips moved, but the words got stuck somewhere between his pride and his fear. Outside the courthouse, people were chanting now. Not for me, not for my father, for truth. Dads don't belong in handcuffs for loving their kids. Education isn't a crime. We see you, Mark. It wasn't long before news broke. The judge had been placed under internal review. My citation was thrown out. My record, wiped clean. And a formal apology was issued to my family. But no paper, no press conference could undo what Amara saw that day. So I brought her back to the courthouse steps, just her and me. And I knelt down, handed her a brand new solar system kit. This one we'd build together again. "You see all these people?" I said. "They're not just here for me. They're here because nobody deserves to be treated like less." She looked up at me with those big brown eyes and said something I'll never forget. "So, Grandpa's a superhero too?" I smiled. "No, baby. Grandpa just reminded the world that your daddy always was. This wasn't just about a judge. This was about every time we're told to stay quiet, stay low, stay grateful for the crumbs. But not anymore. Not today. This time the system had to sit down and listen. And maybe next time, it'll think twice before laughing at a black man with Saturn in his hands."